Today we're in Guadalajara, Mexico, and this video is going to be all about street food.
We're going to be sharing with you some of the city's best street food. We've got some real gems lined up for you. Guadalajara is a city for eaters. The food culture here is distinct, vibrant, and most of all delicious. This is our third video from Guadalajara, and we're sharing with you some of the city's best food. We eat Guadalajara's famous drowned sandwich, discover some of the best tacos in the city, and explore more of Jalisco State's unique food. In this gigantic Mexico series, we're eating where the locals eat and sharing with you some of the country's best food, from rare indigenous food to heritage recipes. You don't want to miss this series. Get ready for some mouth-watering food.
I'm Thomas.
And I'm Sheena, and we're chasing a plate.
We hope you're hungry. Let's eat.
Before we dive into our first street food, we want to say a huge thank you to the sponsor of this video, SafetyWing, who offer travel medical insurance.
Sheena recently ended up in hospital, needed a major operation, so without insurance we would have been in huge trouble.
One of the great things about SafetyWing is that they're super affordable. So for 4 weeks of insurance, it costs $37, and if you're going to be traveling in the US, it costs $68.
Another brilliant feature is you can buy the insurance when you're outside of your home country, which is really handy for people like us, digital nomads.
We also love SafetyWing because they offer limited home coverage. So for every 3 months of travel, you get 30 days of home coverage, and if you're from the United States, you get 15 days. For heaps more details, check out the link in the description below. I'm super pumped about this video because we're going to be zipping all around Guadalajara to share with you some of the best street food that we can find. Now we are heading to our first spot, and we are going to be eating something called a torta ahogada, which translates to a drowned sandwich. The spot that we're heading to is supposed to be one of the best in the city. Let's go and order one of these things. Dos tortas, por favor. The señor here is cutting up the carnitas, which is the pork cooked in its own fat, and he's popping it into the roll, and the roll is just pretty hefty, and he's popped some chili sauce, some onions, and drowned it in the sauce. Muchas gracias. This business has been around since 1960. The name of it is Jose El de la Bicicleta, and bicicleta means bicycle. So I assume that when the gentleman first started selling these tortas, it was off the back of a bike, but now he's got an actual shop, although he's still serving sandwiches off the bike, which is pretty neat. He's going to eat these tortas. I've never seen anything like this torta ahogada. So the drowned sandwich, and this is something that you have got to eat when you come to Guadalajara. It's one of those Guadalajara classics. So what it's made up of is this roll, which has been stuffed with carnitas. Carnitas here are the pork, or pork which is cooked in its own fat, so it's really juicy. He chucked on some red onion and then also some spicy salsa, and then he poured a ladle of this tomato-based sauce over it so that it is literally drowning in sauce. I can't wait to get into this. So there's some lime on the table, but I'm just gonna leave that for now and just get a taste of this thing without anything on it. Mmm. Holy moly, that is so good. What I love is that the roll, and it's a special roll I believe, it's called a birria, is really crusty and thick. It's quite salty as well, but it really holds that sauce, so it hasn't turned all mushy. And the pork is super juicy. I'm gonna get this bite. You've got the crusty outer of the roll, the soft squishy inside, the pork super juicy, the salsa is quite spicy, and then the tomato sauce is quite acidic, so it has a tanginess. That is delicious. I thought that perhaps the tomato sauce might be warm, but it's just room temperature. I don't mind it. It really, really works with the sandwich. This is such a unique snack, a drowned sandwich. And it's a really great way to start off this Guadalajaran street food tour. And it's a really super unique spot as well. I love that he's still serving sandwiches off the back of his bicycle. And we're sitting right on the street. They've set up just a couple of tables, literally between 2 car parks. This is what street food is all about to me. This is great.
Now, what would a street food tour in Mexico be without tacos? So now we're going for some tacos at a place that does a really neat little topping. It's a cheese topping, but it looks pretty cool. But check this out. It's right up here and it is packed with people, absolutely raging. So we're in what's sort of like a little industrial looking type area of streets, but this tent right here on the street is going off. Let's go check it out, get some tacos. This stand is like no taco stand I've ever seen here in Mexico. So they're doing, for starters, they're making their own tortillas right here with the special tortilla press. That is really neat. Look at the masa getting ground up right here. That's unreal. But look at the special thing about this stand, this big pile of cheese. So that cheese is going to end up on the tacos. This place is super cool. I can already smell and see why it is so busy. Let's get some tacos.
¿Cómo estás? What do you have? Barbacoa?
Birria.
Birria?
Birria, asada, chicharrón.
4 tacos, por favor. 2 chicharrón y 2 carne asada, por favor. Gracias. Con todo, por favor. Wow, panela. See? This is the special topping, the panela cheese. This is a really neat taco stand. There are people everywhere. It's about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, so this is like the prime time for eating lunch. And the guys have 3 different types of meat. There's chicharron, which is pork skin, there's a grilled steak, and there's also some birria, which it might be the slow roasted goat. We went for 2 pork skins and 2 of the carne asada. This is such a neat stall. We've got our 4 beautiful looking tacos here, and then we've got a station of condiments. So I'm just gonna grab some of these limes here. So grab a couple of those. Here's some pickled onions with some habanero. So I might just add a little bit of those spicy habaneros over the top. I don't want to go too crazy because those things are spicy. And then look at this salsa roja, pretty chunky, so tons of tomato as well as chilies in there. Just slosh that all over. All right, that's looking pretty delicious.
This is like no plate of tacos I've ever seen here in Mexico, and they look so good, super unique with this cheese on top. So this cheese is panela, and it's a cow's cheese, so a very mild cow's cheese. And so you can see it's not aged or anything, it's just a very light cheese. And I love that massive pile of cheese they've got up there, which he just flicks off with the big knife and dumps on top of everyone's order. So what did we order? We got 2 carne asada, so 2 steak ones there, so beef steak, just grilled and diced up, and then we've got some chicharron. So at this end there's chicharron, which is pork skin. Now let's just get some lime onto that one, break off some of that cheese. So I'm going for the carne asada here. So this is steak. Oh, and look at that. So there's some frijoles on there as well. I didn't notice that. So that's a beans dish, and we've got onions on there as well. Sheena's put some habaneros on there. Let's wrap that bad boy up. Oh, I've got the cheesy end. Oh. Oh. That is good. The meat's very soft, very tender, full of flavor as well. The cheese is super mild. It's more of a texture than a flavor actually. It just adds a nice creamy texture to your mouth and a little bit of flavor there. Onions work perfectly. This is good. The flavors aren't too bold. And actually, I need more of those habaneros. So let's go grab some more for another mouthful, because I think it needs a bold spice to it. Sometimes with tacos like this, you don't need so much of a hit, but I reckon this needs that spicy hit. Just waiting to get in on the stand. All right, so we'll get some more of these onions. Put some on the side for the next bite, but I just need some of the Habanero, yeah, look at that. Okay, now that's nice and loaded up with the habanero. So that should be a good kick. Oh, that's doing it. That rounded out the mouthful for me perfectly. So that extra hit, extra spice, still not too crazy because they're diced up pretty small. These are delicious. Let's get some of that habanero and that onion and pop it on this chicharron taco at the end. So the pork skin taco, put some of that on, break off some more cheese. Oh, I don't want to lose those. I don't want to lose those habaneros. It's so piled up. Oh. Oh, so good again. Exactly the same thing. The meat's not too crazy. It just is what it is. So then when you add the salsa, that I got a lot of salsa on that one, a red salsa, that was had a lot of tomatoes in it, so it was nice and acidic, like creaminess in the cheese, getting some habanero spice now. The tortilla's very nice too. It's got a great kick of flavor, but it doesn't, sometimes tortillas can sort of dry out the taco. These do not at all. They take on the moisture nicely. That is a great plate of tacos, and I can see why the crowd is like this. I mean, there's people leaning around everywhere getting into these. This is an incredibly popular stand here in Guadalajara. You can totally see why. They are amazing tacos.
This next dish is a real cracker. It's called birria, and it's a slow roasted, in this case, veal, which is then seared crispy. We've come to this local market to find a store which is really famous for its birria. It's been around for 50 years, and it's supposed to do a spectacular version. Let's go. We've just nabbed a seat at this birria shop, and it's packed with people. The oven, which is just open, is crisping up that meat. It looks absolutely beautiful, smells really intense. You can see all the different cuts of veal there. Dos platos chicos, por favor. Una surtida y costilla.
¿Una surtida y una costilla?
Sí, gracias. I ordered 2 plates of birria, so I asked for some rib meat and also just a mix, an assortment of the different cuts, and that's what you can do. You can sort of identify which parts of the animal that you love the most and ask for that cut.
Now this birria looks extremely good, and I absolutely love this environment. So we're sitting right here at the stall, so all the prep work's being done right here on this chopping board. The meat's coming right out of that oven there, and this is the birria. Now, if you've been watching our videos already, you know that we've already had birria in this series, so we'll link that video up there. However, that was a very different version to this one. This one is, you can see the meat here is just all cut up, so it's beef or veal in this case, and they cook it very, very slowly, and then they double cook it. So that's how it's got this crispiness on the outside, because they actually cook it up, so almost roast it to get this little crispiness on the outside. So slow cooked and then cooked again to get crispy on the outside. And so the last time we had this, it was more of a soup style, so it was all combined. Here, the meat comes out, gets cut up, and then a very thin broth. Look at this, so it's a tomato-based broth. And look how thin that is. So that is just put all over the top. So let's get this prepped for eating. We've got some fresh cut onions here. So we'll just pile those onions in because they're gonna flavor up that broth. And under here, we've got some tortillas. So I'm gonna make up little tortillas with this one because it's not a soup like last time. I think it's primed to be put into some tortillas. So tortilla, let's get some bits of meat. So I got the mix of different cuts of meat. We actually got 2 plates. Sheena got just rib meat, and I got this mix of different meats. Oh, come on, gotta get that bit, nice bit of skin on that bit of beef. And this sauce is meant to be nice and hot, so we'll get a good bit of sauce on there. Wrap that up. Gosh, that is good. Wow, that is good. The tomato flavor is very strong in that broth. Almost tastes like a tomato soup, a very nice light tomato soup. The onions are really packing a punch into that because they're just fresh onions, so they're a lot of burst of flavor. But the meat itself, I'm going to have a bit of meat just by itself. So let's get this nice bit here off the end, nice bit of crispiness, because it's actually quite subtle in flavor, so I want to eat it by itself. Oh man. Very tender, very juicy as well. And the tomatoes are just giving it so much flavor, incredibly sweet from that tomato broth. Eating like this at markets in Mexico is fantastic. You can see all the people lined up. So you're almost always sitting at these bench style seats, all the action's happening right in front of you. So you've got the heat and the smells coming from the kitchen because you're right there, you're basically in the kitchen. The food is incredible, and this stand's got a lot of heritage actually as well. This has been around for 50 years, 30 years in the market, but 20 years it was a street food stand. So it progressed from being a street food cart to being here in the market. It's incredibly popular. The place is lined up. Look at this. Oh, it's got the whole backbone of the veal there. It's just chopping little bits of the bone off. Look at that little beautiful bits of meat on there. It is a great meal.
We've left the small local market and we've come to the gigantic Mercado San Juan de Dios, which is the largest indoor market in Latin America. There's something like 3,000 vendors within this complex, and there's a lot going on. There's heaps of produce, tons of food. We're wandering around at the Christmas decoration section, but we're not here to shop, we are here to eat. And our next snack is something super interesting. So here in Mexico, they do crazy, wonderful things with corn, and this next food or drink rather is crazy and wonderful. It's called tejuino and it is delicious. This is the tejuino, and you can see it's this murky color. It's made out of fermented corn dough. You can see he's sort of moving the liquid about. He added some lime into the glass first, and now he's topping it off with nieve de limón, so lemon ice. Muchas gracias. Oh, how good does this look? Let me just pay up. Muchas gracias. All right, so I've got my tejuino in hand. This little store is super cute. So they've got the tejuino sitting in these big, this giant wooden barrel, and then next to it, the nieves, the hand-churned water-based lemon ice cream, which you can see floating on the top here. That's in a steel garrafas, it's called, and then that's also sitting in ice in a wooden barrel. It's just a really neat setup. So this is tejuino, and tejuino is a fermented corn drink. So they mix the corn masa with some piloncillo, which is unrefined cane sugar, and they let it sit for about a week to ferment together with water, and then it becomes this drink. What he did was he added some lime into the cup first, and then he added the tejuino, and then the scoop of lemon nieves, which is going to be, or lime, sorry, lime nieves. We're always getting confused here because lime is limon, which to us sounds like lemon. We're always mixing lemon and lime up. Okay, let's just taste this. I love this drink. It's so unusual. It's really earthy, a little bit bitter. You get the tanginess coming from the lime and then also from the lime nieves. Oh. You can really taste the fermented flavor in this one. It's got an almost a bubbly bitterness to it. It's beautiful. We grabbed another tejuino because it's so good, and I got a proper look at him putting the drink together. And I noticed that he put a little bit of salt in with the lime, and you can taste the saltiness coming through. So this store has been around since 1965, and I've also just noticed at the back they've got all these old photos of them making their tejuino and like cooking it over wood fire. It's really neat.